when I was 18 years old, I was hopelessly in love with a girl from my high school. And when I say hopelessly, I really do mean hopelessly, like the classical teenage love, listening to Justin Timberlake while crying all night because thinking that I won't be able to get this girl. And previous to that, I had spent 5-6 years of my life fantasizing as the ultimate dream of mine to meet a girl like that and fall in love with them and then fall in love with me and, you know, happily ever after and all that shit. And so for me, this was what life was about. This was my ultimate goal at the time. So everything that I wanted was in that moment, in that girl that I wanted to be with. And I was talking with her, so part of me thought she might actually like me, which was a huge change of pace, because usually in my experience at that moment, the girls that I would fall in love with, it would never end up working out. I would never make them fall in love with me. And the girls that liked me was never the girls that I actually liked. And my friends on top of that told me, she's talking with another guy and we hear that they have a thing going, so probably she doesn't actually like you, she's just friendly to you. And there was a very, very particular moment that I look back upon, and I'm so grateful for this moment. And what happened was that I came home from school one day, and one of my best friends that I went to class with that also knew the girl, he sends me a message saying, "Oh, Valdemar, she just invited me to her party on Friday. Are you coming as well?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, why didn't she invite me to this party? And I was super hurt about it because I thought, okay, this is the final proof that I needed to see that she's actually not into me. And in that moment, because I wanted so bad to be with her, I suddenly, inside of myself, was faced with a crossroad and thought, okay, on one hand, I've been in this situation before, I like a girl, and then suddenly I see some kind of proof that shows me she doesn't like me. And previously, I would just believe it 100%, and I could sense inside of me there was this big story playing out saying, she doesn't like you, they never like you when you like them, just do what you always do and go back into avoiding them, into stop trying in order to not get hurt as much. But in that moment, I wanted it so bad, and I recognized, and this is why I appreciate the moment, because I was actually able to recognize the fact that the story was playing out. Instead of just blindlessly reacting to the story as I would have previously done, I was actually able to hear the story inside of my mind saying, she doesn't like you. And I heard it as a story, and I could see that if I believed that story, I knew how it was gonna end. And so I made a very strong commitment in that moment that I'm not going to react to this story, I'm not going to believe it. In fact, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to believe that she does like me, even though that the story is playing out, even though I had the proof now that she didn't like me, everything, I was going to believe 100% that she's liking me. And so what I did is I messaged her saying something flirtatious like, nice move trying to play hard to get by not inviting me to your party. And to my surprise, and I really mean that, to my surprise, she messaged me back saying, haha, do you want to come? And I went to the party, and that was the first night that we had a kiss. And then after that, we ended up in a relationship for a year plus. And to me, there's many things that's amazing about that story, and it really is an amazing memory of mine that I appreciate so much, because it was the very first proof that I got that I didn't have to believe the story. And matter of fact, if I didn't believe the story, I would get a completely different outcome in life than what I had previously gotten. And it made my mind open up to the possibility that I could actually change my life, and it was really the most solid proof that I had found of that truth, that I can be in control of my mind, or I can largely influence it, and I don't have to believe in the story that my mind is running, that is negatively affecting me and making me sad. And at first, the story for me was amazing, because as a result of my actions, I was able to turn it around and change what ended up happening, and I was able to achieve one of my biggest dreams, to get a girlfriend that I was absolutely in love with. But from the perspective that I have now, what I really appreciate about the memory now is that I was able to let go of the story. Because one thing is to change the world outside, but a much more beautiful thing is to be able to change the world on the inside. If we can have enough awareness to see the story coming up in our mind, and just enough awareness to see it coming up at first, and then later on not reacting to the story, but just seeing it coming up and not believing it, but seeing, okay, this is the story that is coming up in my mind. My mind is telling me this person is bad, my mind is telling me I'm bad, my mind is telling me whatever. And just not reacting to it, not believing it 100%, not jumping in with both feet, believing in the story and creating drama for ourselves, reacting to it with anger, sadness, depression, whatever it is. And just recognize that it's coming up inside of us and staying unreacted to it. And if we can do that, we can start healing all the drama that is happening on the inside of us, in the inside of our mind, the daily drama that we're feeding ourselves that are influencing us, making us negative, making us toxic in our relationships with our family, with our friends. Like, how many people do you know where someone will say something very, very minor and they'll get triggered completely and get pissed off at that person? Oh, they shouldn't have said that thing. That was so inconsiderate. They're such an asshole for saying it. Yet they have no clue what the intentions of the other person was. Could very well be that the other person had super sincere intentions, but just because they said something in a way that stroked the other person the wrong way, and now they're hating them. Because when they said that thing, inside the other person that's reacting, something is triggered, a story is triggered in the mind, and they're reacting blindlessly to that story. Many of us are so predictable. We push one button on another person and we know how they're going to react because they're just reacting to whatever input they get. They're reacting. But if we can become conscious, someone does something to us, we can be completely spontaneous, we can be completely unpredictable because we're choosing our action rather than reacting to whatever the input is. Because we are just observing the story being told in our mind instead of reacting to it. Observing it, seeing it play out, not reacting to it, not believing in it. Just observing it, saying, okay, this is what's happening inside my mind, I don't have to believe it. You know, there's a great book, I love this book so much, changed my life, called The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. And he talks about the mind being like a roommate that we cannot escape, but we don't have to believe the mind all the time, we don't have to react to it and all the toxic stuff that it will bring up at times. And if we stay unreactive, slowly it's gonna calm down and not be as irritated constantly, because we're not feeding it with our fear, we're not feeding it with our reaction. Every time we react to it, we're feeding it a little bit. And so if we stay unreactive, then a lot of beauty can transpire, because then we can choose our response, and in our response we can change our lives, and more importantly we can change how we experience the world around us. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know in the comment section. I don't make videos very often anymore. I try to keep them to only being made when I'm feeling inspired, and this story is a story that actually have inspired me a lot in my life, so I hope that some of the inspiration comes across to you as well. Take care.